I'm aspiring to develop wisdom. Wisdom is a defense as money is a defense. They're both defense mechanisms because if you can navigate through decision making, you can do a lot of things that guys will just pay others to do. And I didn't have the money at the time, so I had to use my brain to say, how are we going to navigate this? What's the pathway to the first million, the first 10 million, and now, of course, the first 100 million? And I think the best transformation of evolution for me is a famous proverb that I live by that says, plans succeed or fail for a lack of counsel.
This is Maestro Minute, the show that discusses all things real estate, sharing interviews with the most successful people in the industry. Hear from their perspective and what they are doing to achieve success. Get exclusive tips on how you can also succeed in real estate. Maestro Minute is brought to you by Maestro Development. Here's your host, Nareg Muradian.
I wish I had the proper mentorship at the time to help me say, Kardashian, you need to put the brakes on right now because you are headed down a path which will eventually lead to death. And it was in that moment, making a long story short, that I immediately had a wake-up call, which I believe every executive needs to have. Whether you're 20, 40, or 80, doesn't matter. I've coached guys in their 80s. They've come into billions of dollars. They just had their wake-up call. Doesn't matter. Age is not a factor. It's moment. And as soon as you have it, stay in it. And it was from that point on that I developed a personal training company, get my body back in shape, rose all the way up to the NFL within about 2 years, was on the sidelines of UOP coaching athletes. I mean, it was the time of my life. And then from there, developed an executive coaching company. It kind of was birthed out of that painful moment that I was in where I didn't have the answers. So like an authentic mentor will when you're born to be a mentor, and I always tell people this, you got to make sure that you're not with people that call themselves coaches. You really need someone who's living their calling as a coach, because again, it's partnerships. Right. If you're in the wrong partnership, I could actually re-navigate you the wrong way, whether you're driven by money, not purpose, et cetera, et cetera. Right. I was on the sidelines of University of Pacific with the San Francisco 49ers. And this was when Joe Montana was leaving and Dwight Clark was leaving and my favorite Roger Craig and Ronnie Lott, who I know now personally, Jerry Rice, who I know, and a dear friend, Ray Brown, who was the defensive tackle, became friends with me and befriended me. And it was my first time just softly coaching, no pay, just a gentleman to gentleman. He believed in me. I was enamored by him. And
he was a big guy, right?
Oh, huge. He was like 6'5", pressing 300.
Right.
If you watching 250.
Yeah.
But he gave me an opportunity. I'm thinking, this guy's making millions of dollars every year. I'm making hundreds of thousands. What possibly do I have to share with him? And I gave him a piece of information that was absolutely transformative. And that began a spark in that here I was helping Division I semi-pros achieve mental feats physically. And then I paralleled that, Nareg, into the business world. Well, if we're doing mental feats physically, why can't we do mental feats financially or in business or corporately? And this began my 25-year journey as an executive coach and mentor.
So let's get a little bit into the theological space. You have a lot of good phrases and kind of taglines, and especially Proverbs you kind of go to. The one that I particularly liked is the one where you said people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It's probably one of the most prolific books I've ever read in my life. I've read thousands of books. I'm an avid reader and a writer now. But I am astonished by the writings of King David and King Solomon. Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about wealth and influence, right? This is quite arguably one of the most wealthiest men who ever lived, right? King Solomon, of course, Solomon's temple. Just so you can get some proper context on this, this is kind of funny, but, like, where did they put all the manure with all these animals, right? Well, they had it called a gate called the East Gate. You have to imagine these massive temples, right? They had cows and livestock and horses and millions of servants, right, to build these temples. I mean, Solomon was so wealthy that he had all the nails, Narek, dipped in gold that were inside the inner walls. This dude had money, and he had money to burn, so much so that he would take all the excess silver and just go throw it at the gate of dung. That's where they had all of the gate, because the east winds would come, so they didn't want it blowing into the camp, right? You get that visual? So he brought the silver there. That's how much money he had. You just throw it away. Well, I've really gleaned from his writings, and the one that you're speaking about there is found in Hosea 4:6, which was through another wonderful, wonderful man of God. And every person that I have coached, every single one, the decisions that they have made, whether they've done them directly or indirectly, innocently or literally, has always come down to that one principle. I did not have the knowledge about the outcome, or else I would have never taken that road, or I didn't have the knowledge to make a better decision. And that's where the interception of wise counsel comes in. The proverb concludes by saying, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, comma, because they've rejected knowledge. And I have found, Narek, that rejected knowledge is probably one of the most strictest liabilities that anybody can have. If I have the revelation that smoking causes cancer, but I reject that knowledge, but I've been given that knowledge, and then I come down with stage 4 lung cancer, that was my decision. And it's a very sad, sad truth.
Let's talk a little bit about the individuals who are successful,
Yes.
and their connection with God, or how they are internally in divinity, like how that roadmap works versus those that don't have that
Yeah.
right in their lives. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's very interesting that you would say that, because I interviewed a gentleman 2 days ago in Beverly Hills here, and we were talking about his beautiful Rolls Royce, an aspiring car I'd love to have one day. And we got into this deep discussion. He does about 150 to 200 million a year, and no spiritual foundation at all. So he's 48 years old. He's got 400 employees. And the beginning of the conversation was very aloof and very kind of superficial, just breaking the ice. But then after about an hour of me talking and being interested in him, he began to open up. And he looked at me, and we were talking about deeper life issues. Like, quite humbly, I mean, his business acumen was, wow, unbelievable. He was a lawyer, had 7, 8 companies, had a head of business development. But he opens up about some personal matters about his marriage, about his identity, about his addictions. And I fed it, because it was at that moment I realized that without a spiritual compass, we very easily could be led astray, and a behavioral trait comes in and starts to kick in that we don't even know is working in the back of our mind. And for this gentleman, it was guilt. He was living with this deep sense of guilt over the decisions that he had made, but he had no God or meditative state to turn to release those toxicities out of his body. And in answer to your question, it's a very, very powerful piece of the tripartite man that we must learn as executives and as leaders, as fathers, as wives, as husbands, as teachers, that I am not just having a physical experience on the earth. I am a spirit being who lives in a body that has a spirit on the earth. And a lot of times we're only in touch with 2 of those. We're only in touch with the mind, which is the soul, or we're in touch with the body, which is the flesh. And the flesh doesn't avail anything. All it does is wants to, poop, eat, and sleep. Right? Make a lot of money and then eat more. And then relax more. But that spiritual piece, Narek, the spirit man that governs your breath, in the Hebrew context, ancient writings, that word breath meant ruha, which literally meant breath of God. And so I coach people to live not with a sense of religion. In fact, I deter religion. Religion kills, but the spirit gives life. And if you can wake up every day with just an acknowledgement of gratitude, I have found that gratitude catapults people into a level of spiritual development that they don't even need to go to a church to find. It's just a simple exercise. God, thank you for the breath today.
No, I agree. I think with me personally, the faith that I have has helped me exponentially get across a lot of challenges, and it's amazing to see the faith actually come to life, right? There's something going on in my life, and I pray about it. I have some faith and belief in what's
Beautiful.
going to happen, and then, it comes to fruition.
It's huge.
I think that's
Imagine a person who doesn't even have the acknowledgement
right,
to even ask
right,
or to humble. And in fact, I want to salute you on this, because what that shows me about your behaviors
right.
is that there is a sense of humility in you.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
humility always precedes honor.
Right, right.
You will always continue to elevate in your life, in your practice, in your business, because of that one simple 30-second decision
Right,
to just say, God help me.
right.
Thanks for tuning in to the Maestro Minute podcast. Make sure to rate this podcast if you found it helpful, share it with a friend that could use it, and follow us on all major podcast platforms. The Maestro Minute, powered by Maestro Development.